Good afternoon. Unit 3 Introduction to Mobile Communication. So, the timeline and the history from 1G to 5G took just over 40 years since the introduction of wireless cellular technology, and lot had changed since then. The cell phones have become smaller, download speed have become faster, also the text messaging has become also the text messaging has come and almost gone also. Then the surfing in the internet with the phone become common. Then steam of the social media posting continues, and apparently there's an app for nearly everything now. Okay, so the timeline from 1G to 5G couldn't have happened without creating and enhancing each generation of the telecommunication, leading to what it is today. So, roughly every 10 years since 1979, each newer generation has changed and how we communicate, further improving our way of life. So, diving into the apps of information, let's take a look at the timeline from 1G to 5G, briefly looking at each generation to find out what it had to offer. So, the 1G is launched. The 1G was first introduced to the citizen of the Tokyo. Here we will see, in short, the 1G first generation to fifth generation information related to this. So, the first generation was first introduced to the citizen of Tokyo in 1984. The first generational network covered all Japan, making it the first country to have 1G service nationwide. So it wasn't until March 6, 1983. Then Canada got the coverage in the mid 1980s. So although the cell phone prototype was made in 1973, 10 years before the North American launch of 1G, the Motorola introduced the first commercially available cell phone to the public in 1983. Although being a revolutionary technology at the time, the 1G suffered a major drawback from today's standard. Listening to somebody over a 1G network was difficult due to the low sound quality. So coverage was also short with a large amount of static noise and background crackling. No roaming support was provided either. Security didn't exist over a 1G channel because there was no encryption, meaning anybody with a radio scanner could drop in on a call. Download the speed over 1G was also incredibly slow and only reached around 2.4 kbps. So next is the 2G. So following the success of 1G, the 2G launched on the global system for mobile communication in Finland 1991. Then 2G provided the significant mobile talk advancement, introducing the encrypted call, that is nobody could drop in on your call unwanted anymore. 2G also improved the sound quality, reducing the static and crackling noises while you were talking. It also download the speed were also significantly faster, but still incredibly slow by today's standard than 1G, averaging at about zero point 0.2 Mbps during its lifetime. Then the 2G network also allowed us to transfer the data bit from one phone to another, enabling access to media content on the cell phone, such as ringtone. Because we could now transfer the data, 2G also gave us some basic smart mode functionality. However, that wasn't the most state of the art benefit of this data transfer feature. So in fact, 2G's data transferring completely changed how we communicate by introducing the text message and multimedia message as new form of communication. So using the same control channel as talk, the SMS and MMS messages are sent in the packet of data from cell phone to a tower, then to your friend's phone. Then as texting, downloading and talking over the phone became more popular, the 2G network led to the massive adoption of the cell phone on both the consumer and business side. Then 3G deployed for the as compared to 2G, the 3G had 4 times the data transferring capabilities, reaching up to 2 Mbps on average. And because of this increase, the video streaming, video conference, and live video chat became real. became real. The emails also become another standard form of communication over the mobile devices. Now, what made 3G revolutionary, though, it was the ability of serve the internet, that is basic HTML pages at the time, and the stream music on the mobile. Although 2G did offer the same feature, they were as advanced as 3G had in terms of download speed. So as the 3G era continued, the improvement to the network increased the speed and support. Now in Canada alone, the download speed today are almost 6 Mbps. Although so the next is 4G. So starting at minimum of 12.5 Mbps, the 4G provided a high quality video streaming, chat, fast mobile web access, HD videos and online gaming. So as compared to a simple SIM card switch from 2G to 3G, the mobile devices needed to be specifically designed to support a 4G. However, when 4G first started, it wasn't actually 4G. When ITU-R set required minimum speed for 4G, it wasn't attainable at the time. So in response to the amount of money that the tech manufacturer were putting into achieving this goal, they decided the LTE. LTE means what? Long-term evolution, and it could be labeled as a 4G. So in short, when 4G first came out, what you are seeing was 3.9G or 3.95G. Then the next is the 5G. So the South Korea was first country to offer 5G in March 2019. The 5G generation was rolled out by KTG and SK Telecom, all South Korean telecom providers. So 5G latency is incredibly reduced, which increases faster download and upload speeds. Comparing the two, 4G has an average latency of around 50 milliseconds, whereas 5G average latency is expected to be about 10. So another big difference between 4G and 5G is its latency and the bandwidth size. The 5G latency is incredibly reduced, which increases faster download and upload speed. So comparing to the two, the 4G has an average latency of around 50 milliseconds, whereas 5G's average latency is expected to be 10. So it's also possible that 5G could even drop down to 1 millisecond of latency. So this timeline from 1G to 5G brought us to today. Although 5G hasn't launched globally yet, it's a new network capabilities which will lead to next digital revolution. So 5G is so fast, only thinking about mobile usage is quite limited. The next generation of wireless cellular tech will enhance a machine-to-machine connectivity, bringing in a new automated society. So technologies such as AI, that is artificial intelligence, IoT, that is Internet of Things, and cloud computing, it will make extraordinary leaps over the next few years. So in the health industry alone, 5G is revolutionary. How medical professionals and patients work together on 5G's network, artificial intelligence will soon and develop the treatment plan for the better than. So 5G isn't just about the faster mobile internet, it's not a quicker download speed. Now what is wireless local loop? In telephone network, the circuit between the subscriber's equipment and the local exchange is called the subscriber's loop or the local loop. So the copper wire has been used as the medium for the local loop to provide voice and voice band data service. Since 1980s, the demand for communication service has increased explosively. There has been a great need for the basic telephone services, that is the plain old telephone service in developing countries. The wireless local loop provide a two-way telephone system. Wireless local loop include cordless access system, proprietary fixed radio access system, and fixed cellular system. It is also known as a fixed radio wireless, and this can be in an office or home. So broadband wireless access, radio in the loop, fixed radio access, and fixed wireless access. Wireless local loop provide two ways a telephone system. What is cordless telephone system? To connect a fixed base station to a portable cordless handset. Early system, that is in 1980s, it has very limited range of few tens of meter, so that is within a house premises. The modern systems can provide a limited range and mobility within the urban centers. Then limitation of simple mobile radio system. The cellular approach, it divides the entire service area into several small cells. Then reuse the frequency. The basic components of cellular telephone system. That is cellular mobile phone, a lightweight handheld set. It is a lightweight handheld set which is an outcome of the lightweight handheld set. Okay, the base station means a low power transmitter, other radio equipment plus a small tower. Then a mobile switching center, that is an interface between a base station and the PSTN. It also controls all the base stations in the region and the processes user ID and other call parameters. Then typical MSC can handle up to 1 lakh mobiles and 5,000 simultaneous calls. It also handles a handoff request, call initiation request, and all billing and system maintenance functions. The next point is cellular network architecture. Now, a cellular network architecture. It is constituted, on this diagram shows the cellular network architecture. It is constituted of the following. The one is a network of cells, each with a base station, a packet switch network for communication between the base station and mobile switching center, and the third is the public switch telephone network to connect a subscriber to the wider telephony network. So, first we will see a cellular configuration. In a cellular system, the land area is divided into a number of cells. In cellular system, land area is divided into a number of cells, each with its radio service. In AMPS, the area is large, which in digital service, the area is much smaller. Conventionally, the cells are hexagonal in shape. Each cell uses a frequency range which is not used by its adjacent cell. However, the frequencies may be reused in non-adjacent cell. At the center of each cell is a base station, though which mobile phones and other mobile devices transmit the data and voice. So, the cell phone is nothing more than a radio. It is a complex radio, but still radio. In order to really understand the way a cell phone works, we must discuss some of the cell phone. We have already discussed the history of the cell phone. Not much has changed since then, and the basic cellular infrastructure architecture remain the same. It is essentially areas which is divided into cells, services, and connected to each other by the collection of transceivers, controller, switches, routers, and registers. So, some of the main components of these are mobile equipment, that is base receiver station, then cell size and capacity, base station, controller, mobile switching center. Now we will see one by one. The first one is the mobile equipment. Now this mobile equipment refer to the physical phone itself. So the phone must be able to operate on a cellular network. The older phones operated on a single band only. Newer phones are a dual band, triple band, and even a quad band capable. Quad band phone has the technical capability to operate on any network worldwide. So each phone is uniquely identified by the International Mobile Equipment Identity, that is IMEI number, and this number is burned into the phone by the manufacturer. The IMEI can usually be found removing the battery of the phone and reading the panel in the battery well. Then the next is the base transceiver station. It is actually the antenna that we can see the installed on the top of the tower. The base transceiver station, that is BTS, it is a mobile phone access point to a network. It is responsible for carrying out a radio communication between the network and the mobile phone, and it handles speech encoding, encryption, multiplexing, and modulation demodulation of the radio signal. So one BTS usually cover a single 120-degree sector of an area. Usually a tower with a 3 BTS will accommodate all 360 degree around the tower. However, depending on the geography and user demand of area, a cell may be divided up into one or two sector, or a cell may be serviced by a several BTS with a redundant sector coverage. BTS is assigned a cell identity. The cell identity denote a particular location area which provide the detail of the cell which the BTS is covering. Now what is cell? A base station, that is a transmitter having a number of RF channel, is called a cell. Each cell cover a limited number of mobile subscriber within the cell boundaries, approximately a cell radius of 30 km. Startup 1 km mature. Then the cell size and capacity. The cell size determines the number of cells available to cover a geographic area, and with a frequency reuse, the total capacity available to all users. The capacity within the cell limited by available bandwidth and operational requirement. Each network operator has to size cells to handle the expected traffic demand. Then the next is base station controller. The base station controller. So the base station controls multiple BTS. It handles the allocation of radio channel, frequency administration, power and signal measurement from the MS and hand over from the BTS to another if both BTS controlled by the same BSC. It also functions as a uh, funneler. It reduces the number of connections to the mobile switching center and allows for a higher capacity connections to the MSC. A BSC may be collected with a BTS, or it may be a geographically separate. It may even be collected with the mobile switching center, that is MSC, that is MSC, then the mobile switching center MSC. The MSC is the heart of the GSM network. So it handles a call routing, call setup and the basic switching functions. And MSC, that is mobile switching center, it handles multiple BSCs, that is base station controller, and it also interfaces with other MSCs and register. It also handle inter BSC handoff as well as coordinate with other MSC for inter MSCs handoff. The architecture of different generation of mobile cellular technology from 2G to 4G. The core technology have moved from circuit switching to all IP evolved packet core, that is moving right to left. The high level network architecture of LTEs is comprised of the main component like the user equipment, the evolved UMTS terrestrial radio access network, the evolved packet core. So the evolved packet core communicate with the packet data network in the outside world, such as the internet, private corporate network or the IP multimedia system.